is my first book review. It is currently Monday, April 27th at 11:29 p.m. Today I am reviewing I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Liang. This is my fourth or fifth work by Liang that I am reading. I have read a sound, actually isn't important what I've read before, but it is important that I continue to love this author and love her writing style, and I will continue to read her works. I have another book of hers already checked out, and I will be reading that soon. And then I have two more of her books on hold from the library that will be getting into my hands soon. But first, let's start the review. So, like I said, I hope this doesn't find you. First off, I am rating this book 5 out of 5 stars. It was wonderful. It was everything I wanted it to be. We can even dive into the cover of the book and how everything on the side of it, where the title is, and where a picture of the two characters is drawn in, even the back of it, all looks like windows or tabs on a computer, because the main premise of this book is we have two academic rivals. They are always the top of their class. They are the only competition each other has, and that is something I find very common in Liang's books. But finding out that she actually went to a boarding school, I believe actually in China, this makes a lot more sense now. This book is not set in China. I actually forget where this book is set, but I'm pretty sure it is in the US somewhere. Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's in the US. Let's start into why I give this book a 5 stars, other than it just gave everything that it was meant to give. I am constantly entertained while reading this book. I feel like every single page is important to the story, and it's the kind of book that where they are in a conversation or something happens, I find myself having to stop myself from reading ahead. You know, when you kind of just like jump to the end of the book, or the end of the page, I mean, and kind of read a little bit more into the conversation. Like, you don't want to read the sidebar stuff, the he said, she said, he lifted his head and did this, or I was annoyed by that one piece of hair that's always falling out of place. No, you just want to read what they're saying because you are so enticed by the characters. And I have to say, I truly did love each character. We have our main female character, Sadie, and then our main male character, Julius. And it's kind of obvious that Julius comes from a wealthy family and everything. He said high expectations for him, and he meets them. He does meet those high expectations, and Sadie comes from more working class family, and she truly feels like she has to work really hard to provide for her family, even though she is not the eldest. She's actually the youngest of 2 siblings. Her brother Max is pursuing a career in baseball, and he is currently playing college ball. Now that is actually pretty relevant to the story, and we'll come back to that. But we learn pretty early on that the reason Sadie is so motivated to provide for her family is because her dad is not allowed to do it. Her dad walked out on them. He left, and that's uncovered why more in the book. But as you figure that out, you find it's because Sadie snapped on him and told him to just leave whenever him and her mom were fighting one day, because he was being very, verbally abusive towards her mother, and she stepped in. She was like, if you're always going to be this angry all the time, then just leave. And he did, so she really blames herself for that and becomes this immense people pleaser and leads us down this road, and through that, we see this through the emails. Now, the emails do not exactly start out as emails, they start out as drafts. She writes drafts back in response to people, whether it's an email where she would be writing a draft back to reply to all, or a draft back to just that one person. She has about, I think, 47 or 57 of these drafts, but she never sends them. And one day, all her drafts get sent out to every single person they were supposed to go to. So if they were applying all situation, they were applying all. Everyone got them. So she slowly, throughout the day, sees that everyone hates her. And this one girl runs up to her that she's always asking for her homework and always asking for her notes to go over them. Like, this girl's one of the popular girls. And obviously Sadie, she's one of the smart ones. And everything, that's kind of how you stereotypically separate them. And the popular girl, Rosie, actually copied Sadie's science fair project and turned it in before her. And she kind of calls her out for that in the email that she wrote back as a draft. So Rosie is like, if you had something to say, you should have just said it to my face. You should have embarrassed me in front of everyone. And that's when it clicks to Sadie that all her emails got out. And actually, yeah, it was 57. 47 of those emails were addressed to Julius and talked about how much she hated him. She even detailed in the emails how much she wanted to strangle him and how she would strangle him and wait until he breathed his last breath, pretty much, until she let go. So it really started out as like a true enemies to lovers, and I need that. I love an enemies to lovers, a true enemies to lovers. So they're kind of exchanging blows back and forth in the library and the hallway. He's really speaking his mind to her because he's like, you've already spoken your mind to me through these emails. And I really do start to feel for Sadie because she's having to fully face her people-pleasing tendencies and see that, everyone's not going to like her all the time, but she's fully struggling with that throughout the book, and she tries to throw a party with her best friend, Abigail. Abigail actually suggested, Abigail always thinks her instincts are correct. So she's like, Sadie, we need to throw this party, and everyone is going to like you again. It's going to be great. And Abigail's like, yeah, and everyone's gonna forget about everything you said because you threw a party with free alcohol. Sadie's like, it can't be that easy. Plot twist, it does turn out to be that easy, and the party is going great. Except Abigail ends up needing to leave to go help her sister with something, and Truth or Dare gets started, so they're going around the circle and doing Truth or Dare, and Julius gets dared. He actually ends up showing up to the party, even whenever Sadie thought he would never show up to her party and everything. And so he is actually does Truth, and they ask him if there's anyone in school that he likes or catches his eye, because obviously Julius is also very odd. The girls want him, and that is obvious for our heartthrob in a teen romance book, is he's gotta be the hottest of the hot. And he goes, oh no, I don't have anyone knowing it's just my eye. You can see multiple girls sag their shoulders and roll their eyes and be great, because the entire time he has been at this boarding school. And actually, it's not boarding school because they get to leave, but it's a weird kind of really serious, for rich and smart kids only school kind of thing. But yeah, so everyone's like, oh well, okay. And then Sadie, the female character, gets dared. Well, she selects Dare because she's like, well, I'm not gonna be a pussy like him. I'm gonna do Dare and not Truth. Well, she gets dared to kiss him, and this brings up mixed feelings in her because during this, oh wait, I missed the part. before this happens, and like a few days after the emails go out, they get a seminar in school where they're like, everyone has to go to the gymnasium, and they get a class on, what should we call it, etiquette, like online etiquette, I guess. And Julius and Sadie actually end up like getting in an argument in the middle of the seminar, which is really funny and really cringy. But because of this, the principal tells them they have to start working on school projects together because they're both actually school captains too. They're co-captains, so they end up having to clean up the bike shed together because everyone goes in there and spray paints or writes with marker stuff on the like stone tile or masonry. So they end up having to use burrows to spray and cover it off. But while talking, Sadie doesn't notice where she's pointing the burrows, and she ends up accidentally soaking Julius, and he ends up taking the burrows from her, and actually ends up soaking her too. But then he's like, oh shit, and he turns away abruptly, and he's like, the school uniform, so it kind of becomes see-through when wet, so she has to end up wearing his like blazer for the rest of the time, and it gives it back to him. And there's so much stuff in the book pointing to like Julius liking her, but she is so obsessed with being the best and everyone liking her that she really can't see whenever he's kind of like right in front of her, because she returns this blazer the next day after it's like a wet scent is in it, and it's still kind of damp, like it didn't fully dry from her being wet in it and everything, and he's literally wearing it later in the day, and she's like, I could have kept that dry cleaned for you, and he's like, no, it's okay, I can get a dry clean, you wouldn't know who to take it to anyways, like just a snappy comment and everything. But yeah, so we get to the point where at the party and they're dared to kiss, and she's like, oh, that was a good kiss, but they just keep on going back and forth, like one thing or another. It is just not hitting right for either of them, that they are trying to make a connection. And we get all the way to the last trip of the year, because it's their senior year, it's their last year, and so the seniors get to take like pretty much like a couple day trip together where they all like do kind of like a camping thing, but like obviously in cabins and stuff like that, like cool school trips like that. So they're actually in charge of like their last project to like make up for hating each other and like getting in fights in hallways and stuff like that. And at the seminar is to plan this trip together, and they're arguing and they're joking and they're kind of laughing about like which one to choose. And Sadie kind of snaps and she goes, I just want the torture of having to like be around you over and they're ranting about that. And he's like, fine, torture over, pick this place, and ends up being a cabin in like the mountains with a lake and everything. And throughout all of this, Sadie's also like slowly starting to notice that she does care for Julius, and she does like him, like maybe even like him, and that's scary to her, because it's also like admitting to her that like maybe she does need someone else, but she's also obsessed with like everyone possibly is still hating her right now, and the fact that like he probably hates her for all the emails and stuff like that. So as we like go through the book and we get to this final scenes of being at the cabins and being at this camp, you're really built up dumps over Julius's canoe in like the same kind of breath because they're so close to each other in the race. And he ends up hauling her back up, and they're kind of fighting already while they're in the canoe. And she's like, you don't see. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she kind of busts out crying, but she's like embarrassed for crying in front of him and showing that weakness. And he's really taken aback. He's like, oh shit, I didn't think that, like, that's all this, like, mattered, yada yada. And he's trying to talk to her, but she's just like, paddle back, like, just take me back. And she's kind of just hanging out with her best friend the rest of the evening. And she's like frustrated with her best friend because she's like, he drives me insane, like everything he does and says drive me insane. And I'm like, I like him. She's like, I am noticing I like Julius, and it's horrible. I don't know what to do about it. And her best friend is like, and she's also saying how Sadie is also saying about how she wishes the emails never happened, a part of it kind of ruined her life. And her best friend, and I was like, really? I thought the emails weren't that bad. And Sadie's like, no, the emails were horrible. The emails was the reason we had to start spending more time with each other and couldn't just keep doing these niceties. The emails were the reason that I ended up like falling in for this guy, and I'm stuck in this position where he didn't even choose me to be on his canoeing team because he just assumes that like we always need to be against each other. So finally, Abigail admits that she was the one who sent the emails, that she only meant to send one, but her friend's computer is kind of old, and she always has a lot of tabs up on it, and so she hit the button a bunch of times and ended up just sending everything in her draft inbox. She apologized for it, but Sadie's like crashing out. She's like not even fully mad about all the other emails. She's like, oh my god, if you wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have been so obsessed with him. Like, I wouldn't have been feeling this way. Like, it just wouldn't have been a competition. I wouldn't have been, like, basically, like, not being able to get him out of my thoughts, not being able to get him, like, out of my, like, every waking moment I spend thinking about him. Like that kind of confession. Well, classic thing happens where Abigail's, like, interrupting her during this, like, mini speech is like, Sadie. She's like, Sadie. And then finally, another Sadie is sounded, and she's like, oh shit, that Sadie did not come from Abigail. Well, obviously, Julius is sitting behind her the entire time, and then you hear someone scream from the cabins. Well, no, first, she's like, and he's like, you left your cardigan out by the fire, so I brought it to you. She's like, oh, thanks. And she just like stands there for a moment, looking around. She's like, well, yeah, I guess you can go. Thank you. And he's like, no. She's like, no, what? And then someone screams, and they end up all going into like the middle of the big cabin they're staying at, because I guess everyone is kind of like in a big cabin, and then in the cabin there's like you just need to shut up. And he's like, you're the kind of person who writes nasty emails about people behind their back. And she's like, well, you're the kind of person who writes, Sadie Wren is a bitch on the bicycle shed walls because he did do that. And that really upset her. And her and Julie saw him whenever they were cleaning out the bicycle shed together. That's the time that like she accidentally sprayed him with water. And so he sprayed out her water. Well, the next day she notices Danny guy had like a black eye, and she was like, yeah, that was his handwriting on the wall, but she doesn't make the gonna be Onyx and Ivy by, I believe, Mandy Arnett. And then I'm probably gonna dive into Throne of Nightmares by Gary Menciaga, or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah, hope you have a good night. Sleep tight. And hope you get all the happiness in the